Okay, cool. So, Rafael Valdez, my man. Um, we met so many years ago now. It feels like uh getting that first tattoo from you for me was such a an experience. I had no idea that you were going to take over a significant amount of the real estate on my body. But you know what's super cool is I got a chance to meet you, learn a
Yeah.
lot about your story, and really gain a friend. And so I want to share with the world, with the people that we connect with, your story, because I think it's one that's inspiring. It's one that I'm inspired by. And that's, you know, I think what we want to be able to do as a brand is really showcase people who have done things outside of the box to become who they are. And I think it can help a lot of people. I think, you know, my kids, your kids, other people's children, people in themselves, all will, I think, gain something from hearing about your story. So if I know the story, but let's take it from the top, man. So where were you born?
I was born here where I reside now, which is Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico.
Okay.
I was born
And
here back in 1985.
85. You're still a
Yeah.
baby, bro. You're
Yeah.
still a baby. You haven't hit that 4-0 yet. So, you know.
Yeah. Almost there, almost there.
Yeah. So, all right. And then what happened? What were the circumstances that caused you to relocate to the US?
We moved out. We left Mexico when I was 10 years old. Um, I mean, I had no choice. It wasn't my call or anything. It was my dad's call. Um, we moved out in '95 to LA because my dad was apparently my dad had gone into some bad um, footsteps, some bad crowds, and he just wanted to change. He didn't want us to fall under that as we grew up, so he wanted a change for the family, and he migrated us to the States in '95. I was 10 years old.
Okay. What was that change like for you?
Uh, you know what? I don't exactly remember uh, the change itself, but the process I is very clear to me, and it was um it was a big dramatic because speaking honestly here, we migrated out there illegally. We went into the States illegally as illegal immigrants. So the whole process of crossing the border and they call them coyotes,
Mm-hmm.
the smugglers. Uh, I remember the process. I remember when we said, because the whole how do I say this? My dad's decision of moving happened within a week. It was one day he said we're going to the States. 5 days later we were already in the States.
Wow.
So I remember the whole packing up, the whole arranging, leaving things at my grandma's house, and going to say bye to the family. When we went to go say bye to my grandma, which was the last time I saw her, I never saw her again.
Mm.
It was pretty drastic. Everybody cried. I clearly remember all of that.
Wow.
And then I remember when we took a flight to TJ, and then from TJ, my dad had a visa. He was the only one with the visa. Don't ask me why we couldn't. I don't know why. Now that I'm aware of how things work,
Right.
I think there was a way that he could have taken us in, right, with under his visa. But don't ask me why none of that happened.
Yeah.
So then he flew into the States a week before us, and then or a few days before, I don't know. He flew into the States, arranged a house for us to stay at and everything, and then my mom and my brothers and I flew to TJ, and then I don't know. We stayed at my uncle's house for a couple days, and then we were taken to the house where the coyotes, the smugglers,
Mhm.
will from there take us across the border. And I remember getting there early in the morning. It was just my sister, my brother, and I. My mom wasn't there with us, and we went into this house. It was complete. Uh, it was a stranger's house. Like, I didn't know who it was. I didn't know anybody there. We didn't know anyone. And I, as a 10-year-old with two little brothers, felt like this huge. Uh, uh, I don't know how to say it. Like, I just felt very responsible over
Mhm.
my brothers. I had to take care of them, and I remember we sat on the couch in front of a TV, and they fell asleep on me, and I was tired. I was falling asleep. I was fighting my
Mhm.
eyes to stay open, and I just couldn't let myself go to sleep because I felt like if I fell asleep, they were going to be taken from me.
Mm.
I was just very scared for us and for them. So I remember as a 10-year-old kid just fighting to stay awake so I can keep an eye on my little brothers.
Wow.
And then later that night, I remember my mom showed up, and I remember she went straight into the shower. And I remember I was mad. I was furious with her. I went to the shower door and I was banging on the restroom door,
Mhm.
like mad. And kind of like, it's enough's enough. Like,
What's
why are
good?
you even in the shower? Like, why not come to us first? I don't remember. I don't know. It's just things that I can kind of recollect, right? But I remember being angry at her and just banging on the door. I didn't even want her to be in the shower. Like, and then I think we stayed the night there. I don't remember. And then the next day we got put in a car, just my brother, my sister, and I, with two girls, and they drove us across the border. They drove us across the border, and then my dad intercepted us on the other end, took us home, and then my mom came across later that night, and our life began.
Wow, man. That's
Yeah,
that is a relatively traumatic and emotional experience for a 10-year-old to go through. So once you got stateside, what was life like? Like, what was the routine of being illegal immigrants?
yeah.
How did you navigate?
I didn't really. I mean, at that time, I didn't know I was illegal. I didn't know what that even meant.
Mhm.
I had no idea, right? It wasn't until I got older, um, when it was time to get a job, when it was time to apply for credit, when it's time, what I mean? There's certain things time to get a driver license. That's when I realized that that's when I realized what being illegal meant
Mm.
was. You know what I
Mm.
mean? That's when it hit me.
When you discovered that you weren't in the system.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
And but throughout, as a child, it made no difference. I mean, I was a kid. I just wanted to have fun. I learned English pretty quick. Um, I remember just it was a little how do I say it? Uh, I felt the change at the beginning because when we lived here in the States, I mean, in Mexico, before we left to the States, we lived an okay life. My dad did it pretty good for himself, and we lived pretty nice, as I remember.
Yeah.
And when we crossed over the States, we stayed at the first house we stayed at was at my mom's cousin's house, and we all slept in the living room.
Mm.
I remember my parents were on the floor. I was on the floor with my parents, and then my sister and my brother got a couch. So I was like, I had no idea what was going on because we left this really nice house. We lived in a really nice house, and a week later we were living on someone's living room
Wow.
on the
Wow.
floor. So I remember that, and then I remember my parents. The people, my parents, my mom's cousins, they started getting tired of us taking over the living room, so they pretty much, practically kicked us out. Basically kicked us out, and we went to go stay at my aunt's house, who I'm really close with, actually, to this day. And we were staying in her living room. And, we were taking the living room because there was no room for them to give us. Although, it's not that they
Right.
were being mean, but
Right.
we were staying in the living room. And then from there, my dad got an apartment that we moved into, got his first little car, and then yeah, that's when life began. I started working as soon. I think, yeah, I started working the minute my dad got his first gig. I started helping him out.
And I remember you telling me about this. So what were you doing?
So I'm trying to. The first thing we did was my dad got this little, when it was a big Chevy old pickup truck, and we started driving around collecting scrap metal. And he would collect scrap metal, and then we would take it to the metal yard, and then we would get paid for everything we would bring in. And I would go to school during the week, but Saturday and Sunday, first thing in the morning, he would take us in the truck and we'd go out, just drive around the city collecting, packing up the pickup, and then taking it the next day to sell the metal. But he did that throughout the week, and every time we had a day off or vacation or something, our summers were just doing that every day. And I remember as a kid, I used to, when we would show up to certain houses or certain construction sites or wherever it may be, because we would just pull up wherever we would see metal. And I remember there was times where there was kids running around, and I would get I would feel ashamed or embarrassed. You know what I mean? That I was dirty, collecting. Pretty much, to me, it was trash at that time,
Right.
And kids were running around. So I would feel a little embarrassed.
It's a lot to kind of manage. So how did you mentally manage that? Like how did you make sense of it for yourself, and what did it cause you to do in your mind?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know. At that time, I don't
Yeah.
know how it affected me. I don't know. I don't remember. I don't know how I managed it.
I can tell you one of the ways it affected you is it taught you how to be humble and how to hustle, like to do what you have to do to survive.
Yeah.
Those are fundamental life lessons that privilege doesn't get, right? It's,
Yeah.
people work hard to provide their children with a life so that they don't have to struggle.
Yeah.
The downside is that when you do that, they don't learn how to hustle and survive.
Yeah.
And it's a thing, right? So but let's kind of jump forward. So that's what you were doing in your spare time. Whenever there were vacations, you worked with your dad, you guys collected scrap metal, and that was how your family how your dad fed the family, right?
Yeah.
And then, so how did you go from that to becoming a tattoo artist?
So through, I remember it was in that same apartment during those same years, during that same time, that we were doing the scrap metal, working at swap meets. We did it all. It was during that same time, because it was the same apartment, when I guess I realized I knew how to draw, because I started drawing. And I remember my dad telling me, "It's like, yo, you got a talent. This is a God-given talent." And then I started really, what? Now that you asked me, now that I think about it, you asked me, how did I manage to cope with, to mentally, prepare myself mentally, like, with everything that I was dealing with. And now that you mention it, now that I think about it, I remember that's what really got me into drawing.
Mm-hmm.
I would just draw. I would go to school. I'll be honest, I always did really bad in school. And I would go to school, and I wouldn't pay attention. I would just draw. I would draw, and I would come home, and I would show my parents my drawings. And I don't remember ever getting in trouble, because my dad would know that I would take my time drawing, these drawings, instead of paying attention in class. And every day my drawings got better, and it was obvious that I had a talent. And my dad would always pump me up about it, and he would tell me, this is a talent that God gave you. You have to use it. You have to use it. You have to do something with this talent. And I remember I was stressed out about it. I was like, what am I gonna do with the pen, with the pencil and a paper? Like, how can I make? What can I? Like, how? Where can I take this? You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
I was stressed out about it as a kid, and then I remember when I saw the caricatures artists at like Universal Studios. I
Yeah.
was like, oh, maybe I could do that because they're getting paid for it. You know what I mean? So I was
Right.
like,
Right.
maybe I could do that. That's what I, as a kid, and I just kept drawing as I got older. I kept drawing. I kept drawing, and that was up until the age of 17. I would still draw every day. I started drawing portraits, and then at the age of 17, I was at my dad's office. By this point, my dad had already done better for himself. He owned his own business. I was working for him at the time as well. Uh, but we were like in another stage of life where my
Right.
dad was successful at this point. And I was on the computer, and I think it was eBay that I was scrolling through, and I was like getting to know eBay. So I was just scrolling through eBay, and out of nowhere, this tattoo kit popped up, and we don't come from we come from Mexico, so tattoos till this day, 2022, is still a taboo. So you could imagine back then when I was 17, like
Right.
we were completely against tattoos. Mexicans were completely against tattoos. So it's not like I had a background of people with tattoos or anything like that. I had no idea. I don't think I've ever looked at a tattoo or anything like that. And this tattoo kit popped up, and it grabbed my attention. It grabbed my attention. I think it was like $250 or something like that. And I didn't even bother asking my dad because I knew he wouldn't buy it for me because it was tattooing.
Yeah.
So I remember I called my girlfriend, who's my wife, Maggie, at this time. I called her, I know, because she had a credit card. Back to I had no credit card because I had no social security number. I had
Right.
that didn't exist for me. So I asked her for the favor. I was like, hey, can you buy this online for me and I'll pay you? I'll give you the cash for it. And right away she said, yeah. She gave me her credit card info. I ordered the tattoo kit, and I never paid her for it. Yeah, I never paid her for it. And this tattoo kit came in, and I had no idea how to use it. Luckily, it came assembled with the needle in it, which was very unsanitary. And I used that needle on myself, and then I used that needle on her. I used it on another friend, and I went from being a portrait artist. I was a really good artist by that time. But when I grabbed the tattoo machine, it was like starting all over again. I couldn't tattoo you a stick figure.
Wow.
And so I just kept going. I kept tattooing friends. I remember I made my first $20, and then I started charging $20. And then the tattoo show Miami Ink came online, aired on television.
Yeah.
And I remember I got sucked into it, and that taught me a lot. Like, I remember that's how I first learned that how I was setting up the needles wrong. That tattoo show was my school. I learned all the fundamentals on that tattoo show.
Wow, that's crazy.
And that's how the tattooing came.
Okay.
So
that's great. So how old were you when you started?
17.
And how old were you when you started drawing? 10, 11, 12?
I was like, when I came to the States, 10, 11 years old. Yeah.
Okay.
10, 11.
Gotcha. So you started tattooing your girl, some friends, just charging $20, discovered this TV show, which helped you figure out how to set up the tattoo needle and equipment so that you could actually do it properly. And so how long did it take you to get to a place where you felt confident in being a artist that can tattoo?
It was until through the church that I went to, there was another tattoo artist there who was like a real, original, traditional, typical tattoo artist, tattooed everywhere. And my brother linked me up with him, and he started like you know, teaching me little by little. And then I remember he invited me to the first tattoo expo that I did. And I started doing tattoo expos. And that's when I started surrounding myself with artists of all sorts.
Mm.
And that's when my art went from you know, from a 5 to a 10. Like that's when I really took off as
yeah,
my abilities with tattooing. And that's when I gained my confidence, just being around all these people, being around clients, people you know, hovering over you while you tattoo. Like it was just nerve-wracking, it was stressful. And then
right.
once I got over all of that, I got used to all of that. That's when it was just me and the pen.
That's great, man. That's cool. So when was your big break? And tell me about that.
My big break, my big break was when I tattooed Mark Anthony, which is my first celebrity that I got to tattoo. I met him. I was a big fan of his music for a while. I had been a big fan of his music for a while. And I got the chance of going to one of his concerts. I got the chance to go backstage. I met him, took a picture with him, and he treated me very, very well. He greeted me very, very well. And but there was something that was telling me, like something inside was like, literally something inside was telling me, like, yo, you didn't come here to be a fan and take a picture with him. Like literally something in my head was like, there's something more for this, something more of this, something more of this. And I was like, what can it be? Like, what can it be? Like, what can I offer him? What can I ask him for? Like, besides a picture, you know?
Right.
And then I seen a tattoo on his wrist, and I was like, oh, tattoo. So I remember I told him, I was like, yo, I like that tattoo on your wrist. He's like, oh, thanks. And then I showed him this rosary that I had. It was the only thing I had at that time on my arm. And I was like, this rosary I did myself. And he goes, wait, you tattoo? I was like, yeah. And he took a look at the rosary again. He's like, yo, that's really good work. It's like, why don't you tattoo me? I was like, dude, I'd love to anytime. And then he took my number down. Actually, no, he asked, yeah, he's like, yo, somebody take his number down. I remember his publicist handed me a business card. And she's like, send me, and she told me, send me an email. I was like, yeah, that email's never going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
So I took the business card. I asked to borrow a pen from somewhere, put my number down, and I gave it to him. And then I remember he said, thanks. He gave it to his assistant. And then when I realized who his assistant was, as they were walking out, I walked besides I walked on next to his assistant, and him and his assistant and I exchanged numbers, and that's why we got linked up. A week later, his assistant called me. He's like, yo, Mark wants you to come to the house. Showed up, and I tattooed him. I asked him permission to post. I posted, and then it hit all the Spanish networks, all Spanish televisions.
Blew up.
And it just blew up. Yeah.
So
and then from there, go ahead.
So I'm going to come back to, I've got some questions for you there, but I want to take it back a little bit, because since I happen to know your history, I know that you didn't just show up at the concert backstage getting to him because you had access. You made that happen. So
I told you the story.
yeah, I know bro, we spent a lot of time together, man. Like I know the reels. So so give me that part of the hustle, because everything that you did from the moment you decided to go to this concert to the time you got the number and exchanged information with the assistant was all hustle. And I think it's so important to share that, because I mean, at the end of the day, it really shows that we can make anything happen if we step outside the comfort zone. And you stepped outside of just about every comfort zone and you could have stopped. And you didn't. You kept pushing it. And so I think you should share that, because it's super inspiring.
Yeah. So I heard he was going to be in town, and like every year it was just tickets were $500. Like tickets would sell out quick, so the resale was $500 to $1,000. So we could it was unreal for us to buy $500 concert tickets. But I really wanted to go this time, and I'd figure I'd sneak in. I remember I called a friend of mine. I told him I had free tickets to the show just so he could give me a ride to come with me. We showed up. I was like, wait, I don't have the tickets yet, so wait for me here. And I got out of the car and I walked through every security. I didn't have to I didn't sneak in. I just walked right through. I didn't sneak in. Sneaking in is having to go through hidden. I didn't sneak in. I walked right through. I knew that if I walked with confidence, make them believe I was somebody, they would let me right through. And I was literally, security guards were opening doors for me. And I got into the to the concert hall. First, no. First, I got through the backstage area, and then the concert had just started. So I went into the auditorium, and I remember I called my friend who had taken me. I was like, "Yo, this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna walk through this door, through this security. Just keep just grab the phone and put the phone on your ear, pretend you're on the phone, and just walk fast." And he did it, and I got him in, because by the time he got to the tough security guard, since the security guard had already seen me, I remember I made sure he saw me, like, "Yo, my man, what's good?" type of thing. I was like, "Yeah," you know what I mean? I made conversation with him. So by the time my friend got to that security guard, I came out and I told the security, I was like, "Yo, he's with me," and then he let him right through.
I love it. It's so good.
That was I remember that. And then we went and we had to auditorium, and luckily there was 2 empty seats. I was like, "Yo, let's sit down here. We'll move the minute someone comes." No one came. We watched the whole show. We were like on 5th row. No one ever got to the seats. And we were leaving. We left. The concert ended. We were walking out with the whole crowd. And that's when I remembered, something inside was telling me, it's like, "Yo, like, go back." You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to follow the crowd. I want to go find something. And that's when I went backstage. That's when I met him, and that's when all that happened.
Amazing, man. Amazing. You really created your own opportunity right there. And so once you got a chance to get next to him, which, it's one thing to walk into a concert. It's another to get backstage. It's another to get close to him. It's another to actually engage him and actually get him interested in what you do, what you can offer him. Then the publicist curved you, and you were like, "Nah, I'm not going for that, because I'll never get connected to him again." And so you put your number down on the publicist card and handed it to Mark, which is a save, because now he has something from you to remember you by. And you don't have the gatekeeper. The publicist would be like, "Whatever, kid, that's not going to happen." Right. But then on the way out, to really seal the deal, you befriended the assistant and exchanged numbers with the assistant. So not only did you connect with his right-hand person, you connected with him. All of that came through hustle. And I guess the question is, when you tattooed him, he gave you permission to post, and it blew up. How did your life change from that point?
Oh man, well, it put me on the map as an artist. Everybody wanted to get tattooed by me. Like, literally, I remember I went to these I don't remember what award shows I went to, but it was these Latin music award shows. And I remember I got stopped by a few people. "Yo, you're Mark Anthony's tattoo artist. Can I take a picture with you?" And people were asking me for pictures because I was Mark's tattoo artist.
Wow.
Because because when I tattooed him, it literally it went big. I don't know why, but it went big. It was on every Spanish network.
It's Mark Anthony, bro.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so back in the East Coast, Mark Anthony is huge in the West Coast. In the East Coast, Mark Anthony's a god. You know what I mean? uh Puerto Ricans,
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
so he's huge over there. So then my clientele in the East Coast, in Miami, Orlando, Tampa, it just blew up. I was flying to Florida um every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks. And then from Florida I went to New York, and then I had I just my clientele just blew up. And then I was in the East Coast uh every 2 weeks. New York,
Amazing,
my
man.
yeah.
Amazing. So for the world that maybe hasn't discovered you yet and hasn't gone through your Instagram, maybe just share with them some of the top 5 celebrities that you have tattooed in your mind.
Top five. First off, Mark Anthony, David Beckham, his wife Victoria Beckham, Lewis Hamilton, which was pretty cool with me because I was a big fan of F1,
Yeah.
and obviously big fan of Lewis. So when I got to tattoo him, that was pretty cool. Lewis Hamilton, Kylie Jenner, who of course we all know.
Mhm.
I don't know, Cara Delevingne.
Mhm.
There's so many that that's actually the hardest question.
So,
I'm like, geez,
so I have
everyone.
I have my Rafael Valdez experience to share. This happened real time after I started getting tattooed by you. I get this phone call and my boy is like, yo, I can't believe this dude wants to fight me. I'm like, who? He's like, Kylie Jenner's boyfriend,
Oh,
Travis Scott. I'm like, what is wrong with Travis? He said, do you know him? I'm like, yeah, I mean, I kind of know him, but I don't know him to like call him right now and tell him to chill out. And you're like, dude, this dude is so pissed off that I tatted his girl and I said hi to her. And he's like, now he wants to fight me. How many times
yeah.
has that happened to you?
Just that one time.
Okay.
Just,
All right. All right. All right. Well, I thought that was a funny story or an experience, because I remember you were like, bro.
bro, the funny part is I was so caught off guard that this little dude got into, because he's a little dude, man. Gets on my face, and I was like, yo, what's going on? And by the time everything ended, all the drama and me getting pushed out of the club, like I was in awe. I had no idea what was going on. And then my assistant goes, I can't believe Travis Scott did that to you. I was like, that was Travis Scott? I had no idea that was
I didn't even know who he was. So
yeah.
this is when your stardom is like beyond you. When you don't know who a celebrity is, but he knows who you are. That is when you have arrived, my friend. I think that's hilarious.
What's funny is that a lot of athletes, and this, no offense to all my friends who I've worked with and I have become friends with through tattooing, and all these athletes, every time I would get hit up by them, I would hit up by my brother-in-law. So I was like, yo, is this who I'm about to tattoo this? I'm about to tattoo this guy. Give me a sec. Apaga tu Bluetooth, no, porque se está conectando, está pite pite. Yo, who's this guy? I'm about to tattoo him. No way, that's what's his name? I was like, is he good? He's like, yeah, he's the best. Like, I never knew who these athletes were. I had to find out through my brother-in-law.
That's awesome, man. I love it. I love it. So basically now at this point in your life, man, you're career's taken off, and I, by virtue of being the person that you are, I had a chance to meet you. You were recommended to me. We got together. You've tatted me in 4 or 5 different states in the US. We've had tattoo parties.
Yeah.
So, I think it's super cool how you've taken this talent and this hustle and you scaled, and just super impressive. And so now, I guess the question is, and well, actually, let me jump into this for a second. So I know that you were starting a reality show. There's a TV show that you were working on at some point, and so are you still in the mindset that you're going to do one of those?
So it wasn't well, the idea was, no, it was like a docu-series that was gonna be,
Docu-series.
yeah. And so I sat down with the producer, um, who's actually the producer of Queen of the South,
Mm-hmm.
the big show. I sat them down. They liked the story, and then they with their writers, they flipped the story, and they're like, you know what, we're gonna turn it into a series. And never, it was just it just stayed in like in talk. You know what I mean? It was never nothing official. And we sat down with writers, and I remember we had a lot of meetings. It was a big process, and they were gonna use my story, but collide it with another, like, add to it and make it a series. And cool, I was for it. I didn't care. I was for it.
Yeah.
And they were gonna make me I forgot what I forgot what I was. I forgot what title they gave me. But anyway, long story short is, not too long ago, after like 2 years, I think, of meetings and talking and all this,
Yeah.
they called me telling me that they were no longer going to go forth with it, that they decided to go with another story. Yeah.
Gotcha. I remember you sharing with me some of the content. There's like some video content on you. Was that for that?
Oh, no. This is another director, producer who started has a YouTube channel.
Hmm.
And he has like a segment on what is it, on like artists, I think. It was pretty cool, and he did a segment on me, on my story, and it was pretty cool. I think that's the one I shared with you.
Cool. Can we reference that, you think?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe you can send me that link, and I'll incorporate it with this. So here's something that I think not a lot of people know about you, but you are a very good singer, an impressive, like, wait a second, this is the guy that's tattooing all these people and he sings? So tell me a little bit about that, and if anything is happening with it.
So the singing comes from, so my family, since my grandfather has always been in the music world. My grandfather, who I never met, my grandfather passed away when my dad was 14. They were actually on the road, on tour, with this artist at that time, who happened to become the biggest singer of Latin America, of Mexico.
Wow.
Which is, his name is Vicente Fernandez, who recently passed away 2 months ago, as a matter of fact. It's okay. And so my grandfather discovered him, managed him for many years, took him to his first U.S. tour, and then my grandfather passes away during a tour on the road. And then my dad, at 14, kind of gets taken in by this man, by Vicente. And then after some time, my dad just takes off, does his own thing. And that's when my dad does his live. Oh, no, and then he came back and worked with him for another 8 years. And then, yeah, that's because I remember we lived at his ranch for some time. And then that's after that, we came to the States. And then my dad struggled for some time, doing what I mentioned, the scrap metal, working in swap meets and all that. And then from there, he met a man which actually this person was the one that did the tour with my grandpa in the States. So when my grandfather brought this artist to the States, he did business with this man. He's the one that ran the tour here in the US. So then my dad runs into him, and then that man brings him back into the music business. And that's when my dad's, our life changed for the better. We got back into the music business, and that's when I started really working for my dad, and I got introduced to the music world. And then just working with my dad backstage, doing the whole production part of the music. That's when I realized that I didn't want to be backstage. I wanted to be on the stage.
Yeah.
And then I told my dad I wanted to be a singer. So then he put me with he made me get a singing coach, and I started taking singing classes. I recorded my first, couple songs just for personal use. And then we just started going little by little. And then up until 2-3 years ago, right before the pandemic, like we really went at it, recorded a whole album, started releasing it little by little. I did my first live performance as a mariachi singer, and we had a meeting. I was about to go on tour with this big band in the US, and then pandemic hit and everything just went.
Oh man. So any plans to resurrect it in any fashion? You reaching out to Mark Anthony and seeing if you can't get on his team, or what?
Well, people hear me sing, find out that I'm a singer, and a lot of artists have heard me, and they've always lent out a hand, like, yo, I like what you have, like, let's do something, let's work together, you know what I mean? But it never goes beyond that. It has never gone beyond that. Just recently I was with a really big artist that I tattooed last week. Big artist. He's actually the biggest Spanish artist right now, Mexican artist. And he heard me sing. He's like, dude, I'm gonna just give you because he's opening up his record label. And he's like, yeah, I'm just gonna give you a paper, you sign it, you'll be part of my label. And that was it. You know what I mean? I've heard these things left and right. And and I'm at the point where, like, yo, no one's gonna do anything for me. I wasn't expecting for anyone to do anything for me anyway, but since they would offer,
Right,
get my hopes up.
Waiting to see what they're gonna do. And
and then so it's just like, you know what, I just gotta get my money. It's not like back in the day you had a talent, you would take it to a label, and you have a talent, you're part of it.
It's a different time.
Now it's a different time. Unfortunately, gotta pretty much you have to fund your own thing until you make it, and then the record labels come in. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's just
that. But with social media, YouTube, you have a lot of tools available to you, and with that natural hustler instinct that you have, once you make your mind up to making that happen, then that will also probably, flourish for you. But man, listen, I appreciate you sharing all of your history and your story. I think it's, like I said, inspirational. Question is, does Mark Anthony know about the hustle? Does he know how you got to meet him? Does he know the true story now?
Yeah, that was so this was like 10 years ago. I've known Mark for about 10 years. And it was actually the last time I saw him before I left the States, which was a year ago. And I saw him maybe a year and a half ago. So I remember I want to go tattoo him, and I want to go say bye to them. I wanted to hang out with them before I left the States. And his sister, who's a really, really good friend of mine, she had asked me, she's like, how'd you meet my brother? And then so I told her, I was like, has Mark heard this story? I was like, no. She's like, you got to tell him. So she's like, yo, have you heard the story of how he met you? And then I told them, they were like, they were tripping out.
That's great, man. That's good. So it's okay for us to tell that then.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure. All right, cool, man. Well, listen, bro, I think it's again, thank you for the time. I think it's an amazing story. I'm going to review the tape and then write it and go over it with our editor, and then I'll send you a draft of it. And then I would ask if you have any pictures, any photos that you would like for us to incorporate when we put it out, because we're gonna push it. I think the one thing that I do want to tie in, and I forgive me for not thinking of it earlier. Um, one of your recreational habits or activities is singing, but then just recently, after knowing you for so many years, I discovered that you also ride horses, and that's become one of your new things. So you're kind of like a cowboy now. And so speak on that for me, if you would, for a quick few minutes.
Uh, so I've always liked horses. I've always loved horses. I remember when we'd go to camps, like our elementary would take us to like a summer camp.
Yeah.
You know, they have horse riding, horseback riding. And I remember as a kid, I'm like, oh yeah, I know how to ride horses. I didn't know a thing about horses, but I would always pretend I knew, and I thought I thought I'd know, and like, so I've always had this thing with horses. And then when my 11-year-old daughter turned 7, I bought her a pony. And I showed up to the house with the pony, and I've always loved horses. I made a stable for him in the back of the house.
I remember
I've always
seeing
loved horses.
that.
Yeah. And then I moved to Mexico a year ago, and luckily for me, the horses is still a big thing out here, and I got introduced to the lifestyle, and I was able to purchase my first horse, and then I bought my son a horse, and just yesterday I picked up a new Spanish. I'm obsessed with horses. I'm obsessed. I love horses. It's very, you forget about everything when you're on a horse.
Yeah, it's extremely therapeutic.
There you go. And I think leaving this, because there was, I don't know if we want to talk about why I left the States, but there was nothing better for me. There was nothing better that I could have done was than leaving the Hollywood lifestyle and ending up on a horse. Like, that was like the best transition ever. You know what I mean?
Well said, dude. I think that's a good way to end it, because at the end of the day, you were in this life. Most people dream of it.
Yeah.
Leaving it, you're probably happier, your family's happier in the lifestyle that you have now. And you and I've had this conversation. I did the same thing. I'm out of New York. I'm down here in the country. This is not where people would have imagined I'd be. And I probably wouldn't have, leaned at and coming into this place, this environment, if we didn't have COVID. And, there are other things that happened in my life that really encouraged me to want to make a change. And for me personally, I still struggle with some of the things that I used to enjoy versus being here, but I'm so appreciative of this. And I feel like this is where people, like, we strive inside the Hollywood environment, the social scene, to try to get to a place of happiness. And we think that that's it. But the truth is, it's not. And so I would say that when I'm not on that hamster wheel chasing my own tail, I am now building bricks and laying a foundation that I think will actually be here for generations for my family. And I think that that's what you're also doing, man. So I give you mad credit for it, brother. I love you. And I have to find a way to come down and see you soon. I mean, we've been talking about it, but we got to link up. I miss you, man.
Miss you too, brother.
All right, dude. Thank you so much for spending the time. Enjoy the family. I'll catch up with you this week. I'll send you a copy of this as well, okay?
Thank you, brother.
Send me any photos of you on horses that you want me to put out, and then of the time period of your life, and then maybe that video link for YouTube, okay?
Okay, perfect. I'll do that.
All right, bro. Talk to you soon.
Love you, brother.
Love you. Take care. Bye.